走れそりよ、
風のように、
月に腹を
パドル、
パドル
パド
パドル。
ル.
That lag was weird.
Yeah, yeah, yes, it was. But 'tis the
Anyway,
season. Look, when you work seasonal at a toy store, your Christmas spirit is just this shriveled, ugly, rotten piece of fruit that can never see the light of day again. So that's all I got in me.
same as someone who works security at a shopping outlet.
No, I'm sure that's fun. If I have to hear one more cover rocking around the Christmas tree, I swear to life.
Like the saving grace this year is that all the Christmas music is instrumental.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah, so I can just drown. I can just tune it out.
Okay, we have yet to welcome the viewers.
Yes. Welcome everybody to the Way of the Weeb podcast. I am the South Bouse, Zach Johnson, and I hate myself for pronouncing it like that.
Yes, of course. I hate you too. I am Santa's little helper who recently upgraded to Krampus status, but you can call me Cycles D4 for the next hour and a half. Now, for our December special, we're going to be doing things a little bit unusual. Since we reviewed our viewing and reading selections for this month last time, we won't be doing that instead. We're going to be going over some pretty big and important news that's actually not even a few days old. So we'll get to the smaller stories first and then launch into the big one. So among the smaller stories, probably the smallest of the small, is that recently a new addition to the roster for Super Smash Bros. Was announced, and it is one of the most iconic villain characters in all of gaming. Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII has joined the roster. So
I still think Kefka is better.
I'm sure, and that seems to be a popular impression. You know, you ask a lot of the stuffed shirt intellectuals about Final Fantasy, they'll always say that 6 is the best one. But with that said, now people can reenact their Cloud and Sephiroth fights in Smash and call it canon.
Or fulfilled their fan fiction and have Sephiroth fight freaking Kirby or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's going to be really weird seeing Kirby with silver hair and a Masamune. That image is haunting me now. But that's something we're going to have to look forward to. Now, the other bit of smaller news, what was that again?
Let's see. The guy that set the KyoAni studio on fire is likely to be indicted.
That's good. That's good.
He's supposedly been deemed mentally fit for trial.
But there was something else that we were going to point out before we get to the big news. It's not
Star Wars is Disney is planning a Star Wars anime anthology.
Okay, that kind of concerns me. Oh yeah, the final season of Attack on Titan is due to be set very soon. In fact, a close friend of mine just did a fairly lengthy video essay explaining and getting everyone up to speed on Attack on Titan, and it just it's his first video to reach 1 million views on YouTube. So go Alex. Really happy for him. I haven't actually kept up with Attack on Titan. I'm still stuck in the second season.
I'm still on chapter 81 of the manga.
Okay. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get back into that. But the big news, it's only a few days old, is the fact that one of the most well-known anime streaming platforms in the world, Crunchyroll, has now been acquired by Sony Pictures Entertainment. And it's concerning. I'm not gonna lie, it's concerning. Because there could be some good things to this. That may mean discounts for PlayStation users, perhaps. Maybe its streaming service will become more technically impressive. That's a possibility. Maybe we'll get more Funimation selections into Crunchyroll again. That's also possible. But there are other things to think about. So I managed to find this article on Polygon talking about the $1.2 billion acquisition. And there's a few things to go into here, and I can pause periodically to offer commentary. On Wednesday, that's just this past Wednesday, the 9th, Sony Pictures Entertainment Incorporated announced that AT&T and Warner Media agreed to sell Crunchyroll to Funimation. Though there had been rumblings of the acquisition for a few weeks, it wasn't clear just how the deal would go down or if it would at all. The purchase price for the transaction was estimated by Sony to be $1.175 billion. The Crunchyroll team has done an extraordinary job of not only growing the Crunchyroll brand, but also building a passionate community of anime fans. Crunchyroll's success is a direct result of the company's culture and commitment to their fans, says Tony Goncalves, if that's how you pronounce that, Warner Media's CRO, in a statement. By combining with Funimation, they will continue to nurture a global community and bring more anime to more people. I'm incredibly proud of the Crunchyroll team and what they have been able to accomplish in the digital media space in such a short period of time. They've created an end-to-end global ecosystem for this incredible art form. So, Warner Media seems happy about this, at the very least. It is very true that Crunchyroll definitely knows how to cater to its fan base and meet them where they are. And at least in my
I give a hand wave to that.
I guess it depends on what position you're in as a weeb. Because in my position, they've been meeting me quite well. But I guess in your position, that would be there's some disparities.
I think first and foremost, what makes me a bit worried about it actually is how, I guess like the Western branch of Sony, how it treated how it treated the Senran Kagura games.
Oh yeah, what about them?
Extra Puritan censorship.
Oh, I remember there being plenty of mods available on the PlayStation Vita version of those games.
On the console versions, it's kind of like hard to work around.
Yeah, well, that's what PC is for.
True. And also, like, I think Polygon is kind of blowing smoke up Crunchyroll a bit, especially with
direct quotes.
Yeah, well, like especially with like region locking. This is why to an extent I find a gray area in certain streaming sites. I mean, like if it's unlicensed in your country, and I probably said this before, it's just like if it's not available to you, whether by region locking or discontinuation, nobody's really asking for any money from it. So nobody loses any money that they didn't ask for.
Sure. I understand.
So and of course now there's like VPNs and stuff like that, but that's just like an extra fee a month to use. But the whole like licensing stuff is it's kind of bunk.
I suppose so. Well, let's see. We are proud to bring Crunchyroll into the Sony family. Tony Vinciquerra, chairman and CEO of Sony Pictures Entertainment, added. Through Funimation and our terrific partners at Aniplex, and Sony Music Entertainment Japan, we have a deep understanding of this global art form and are well positioned to deliver outstanding content to audiences around the world. Together with Crunchyroll, we will create the best possible experience for fans and greater opportunity for creators, producers, and publishers in Japan and elsewhere. Funimation has been doing this for over 25 years, and we look forward to continuing to leverage the power of creativity and technology to succeed in this rapidly growing segment of entertainment. At first glance, Sony's acquisition of Crunchyroll from AT&T might put them in a better position to compete with Netflix. But the move actually grows their influence over Japan's anime industry. By adding Crunchyroll's 70 million free members and 3 million paid subscribers to their portfolio of anime streaming and production companies, the company intends to reap the rewards of anime's growth overseas, which in both 2017 and 2018 grew to nearly half of the industry's over 2.1 trillion yen, about $19 billion total revenue. Although Sony's move into anime streaming might seem sudden, the company has been involved in anime production for decades, exactly. They've been at this for a while. I'm surprised they didn't do this sooner. In 1995, Sony Music Entertainment Japan established Aniplex, a subsidiary created for managing anime and music productions. In 2005, Aniplex started its own animation studio, A1 Pictures, which would go on to animate shows like Kaguya-sama Love is War and Sword Art Online. Very, very popular titles. But over the last 5 years, Sony has strengthened its portfolio of international streaming services through acquisitions, starting in 2015 with the French anime streaming service Wakanim. I guess so. Wakanim. In 2018, the company purchased the Australian anime distributor Madman Anime and the streaming service Anime Lab. A year earlier, a separate subsidiary, Sony Pictures Television, acquired American anime distributor Funimation. Then in 2019, Aniplex and Sony Pictures Television consolidated all of these streaming services together under Funimation's name as a joint venture between the two subsidiaries. Along with the announcement came a demonstration of how vertically integrated Sony's anime business had become, as they revealed that episodes of the series Fate Grand Order, Absolute Demonic Battlefront Babylonia, would have a 30-day exclusivity on Sony's international streaming services before being available on other platforms. That's concerning. The English dub would have a year of exclusivity. The anime series was produced by Aniplex, animated by Cloverworks, an Aniplex-owned animation studio. Much of the show's music was from Sony Music Entertainment artists. The English dub was produced by Funimation, and the series is based on a mobile game produced by Aniplex, so this is basically all just Sony's wheelhouse that came out of. Crunchyroll's billion-dollar acquisition price tag comes not from being the simulcast market-leading streaming service, but from how it will expand Sony's vertical integration into anime production overseas. Although Aniplex already has a North American distribution, game publisher and merchandising arm in Aniplex America, the non-streaming parts of Crunchyroll's business have expanded in many ways that Funimation and Aniplex of America had yet to do. So again, I'm surprised they didn't do this sooner.
I always get kind of like a little tinge whenever I hear like some big acquisition. It's just like,
right.
I've seen too many things go wrong.
Yeah, it can. Let's see, where things go from here for the industry and consumers is difficult to predict. At the end of last year, I wrote about complications anime faced during the streaming wars, and predicted that streaming services would become more involved in the production of shows, not just the licensing, right? Because producing for a binge watch is not the same thing as producing for episodic production. Much of my prediction was based on the idea that the competition between the different anime streaming services would necessitate the investment in their own exclusive shows to entice consumers to subscribe. Netflix has been content to produce its own exclusive shows at a rate of 1 to 3 every season, then later licensing other series after they finish airing for their international catalog. As predicted, Funimation and Crunchyroll had been vying for licenses to 30 to 40 new shows each season, by often becoming involved in the productions to help secure the simulcast streaming rights. However, with that suddenly no longer the case, there shouldn't be much change in the short term, aside from consumers potentially only having to subscribe to 1 or 2 services to simulcast new shows, compared to the 4 or 5 you needed to only a few years ago. In the long term, though, the Sony Crunchyroll deal has the potential to shrink the number of and budgets of future anime productions, and that is concerning. But given the valuation of the acquisition and the growth of the market over the last few years, it seems likely new players will step in to fill the spots once occupied by Funimation and Crunchyroll production committees. Although the only place you'll likely be able to watch their simulcast will be on Funimation or Crunchyroll. So that's the end of the article, and yeah, there's good and bad to that. Yeah, that's a lot.
Of course, I can't help it already, but like always be kind of cynical with these kinds of things, or more pessimistic. And I'm kind of hoping that this doesn't mean that, what was it called? High Guardian Spice or something like that. I'm kind of hoping that this doesn't mean that gets finished. I kind of don't want to see it.
Okay. Like what gets finished?
High Guardian Spice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, that's definitely something for people to be concerned about. Maybe that the old Jolly Roger will fly again.
Yeah. It's like that's never gonna go away as long as the pirating service is a better quality than the legit licensed services. There's gonna be that.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. But it's probably going
pirating is competition, guys.
Exactly. But it may intensify in light of this. That's probably what I was suggesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the main topic, I guess we can discuss the one shot that I was able to get into right before we came on board. Because yeah, my week has just been crazy. My weeks are generally crazy. So let's see what we got here. So he sent me something called After You've Gone. It's a one shot. And
the shortest one I could find.
Yeah, okay. It's 5 pages long, and it really isn't too much to it. It's basically a young girl receiving a letter from her lover, and he's recently passed away. And it's the letter that he leaves behind seems to entail a lot of the basic niceties. Live your life to the fullest, even though I'm gone. And it ends on the 5th page with a request that she forget him entirely. That's the long and short of it.
Mm-hmm. And then she's kind of like, no, she's already in her old age and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's like that's the one thing that I can't do because I remember you that I was able to do these things.
Right, exactly. So it really seems more like a thought than it's a provocative one shot that seems to not be so much focused on a plot, because there really isn't so much in the way of a plot here. It's just there to evoke a mood or a thought. It's sort of like the paintings of Van Gogh. No one looks at a painting of Van Gogh and wonder what's the plot here. That's not its purpose. Its purpose is to evoke a mood or to conjure a thought on something. And that's exactly
I do come across a lot of one shots that kind of feel like they're just like the end of a story.
That's what it seems like. It's like the authors couldn't think of the whole story, but they could think of the beginning or the end, and they just make that. It's just it's a useful exercise. Honestly, it's a good exercise. Particularly for storytellers. I may want to try my hand at that sometime soon.
Just writing the end of the story, trying to like allude to context and such.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, aside from that, I can say the artwork it has its merits. It's definitely webtoon quality. There's a lot of just flat gradiated colors. There's hardly anything in the way of hue variation or anything of the sort. But it works for something that's supposed to be like a story snack in a way.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting the works of like a fully developed manga page from something like this. I am expecting something that is able to be done in a relatively short period of time with little effort, but still respectable in its technicalities, and it has that. I probably would have appreciated... Actually, no, I was about to say I probably would have appreciated more color variance in the background, but perhaps for the mood, that's not too appropriate.
It kind of does need that fogginess.
Because the background here is extremely monochromatic. But it's okay. It's okay. Alright, so that's really all I have to say on that. Is there anything you want to add? If the answer is no, the answer is no.
I guess not. Nothing.
All right, that's cool.
Nothing that isn't obvious.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. I guess we can go ahead and get into our main topic. Now, this is one that you said you had included in your heartbreak binge watch.
My sad binge. My sad binge challenge. We'll be covering the first season, although it was actually the second season that really hits hard. Although that may be due because the first time I saw this series, I was already sort of, I wouldn't say exhausted. I was already weakened by watching. See which one? By watching like Canon, Classic Memories, Anohana, Angel Beats, Clannad, Canon.
Yes.
Like all of those, like previously. Then I hit this one. Come to the end of the second season, and I was a mess.
I can imagine.
Go try.
Yeah, if you're already in the.
Go try the sad binge challenge. Look it up in the group.
Yes, of course.
You'll hate me later.
So for what we're dealing with right now, this is actually an adaptation of a visual novel, and it's F, A Tale of Memories. Now, I forget what the novel, the VN, is originally called. But it's
Euphoric Field.
What's that?
Euphoric Field.
Okay. Well, aside from that, it was the anime adaptation was split into 2 parts, and I was able to watch the first part amidst all my busyness this week. And that's A Tale of Memories. Now, the synopsis that I found from my anime list, because I really couldn't summarize it too well myself. On Christmas Eve, Hirono runs into Miyako Miyamura, the frivolous girl who borrows his bicycle in order to chase down a purse thief. After Hiro finds his bicycle wrecked and Miyako unconscious, the two unexpectedly spend their Christmas Eve together. And when they discover they go to the same high school, their accidental relationship develops even further. This sparks the jealousy of Hiro's childhood friend, Kei Shindo, whose pure approach to life catches the eye of Kyosuke Tsutsumi, a womanizing photographer searching for the perfect shot. Elsewhere, Renji Aso, a boy who dreams of being a girl's knight in shining armor, has a chance encounter with Kei's twin sister, the overly shy Chiro Shindo, who spends her time reading alone at an abandoned train station. The two quickly become friends and eventually decide to write a novel together. However, when Renji discovers Chihiro's secret, a disability that causes her to have an extremely ephemeral memory, his childish ideals will be put to the test. Guided by 2 mysterious adults, these youths' relationships intertwine in a heart-rending tale of love, rejection, acceptance, and memories.
And this was made by a very, very young and wet behind the ears Studio Shaft. And watching this, you could definitely tell.
Okay.
Studio Shaft definitely likes to take their source material and just run with it. They're kind of one of those studios that, like, you can definitely tell it's them when they make it. It's like, you know, the head tilt.
Yeah.
And, like, just they're very artsy. Like, I imagine that anybody that signs with Studio Shaft kind of expects that, like, they're not going to have that much control over it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Other than the writing itself, the visuals are nearly completely out of control.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so there are quite a few characters and character relations to juggle through here, but obviously the main one that the story wants us to focus on in Champion is the one between Hiro and Chihiro. Is that
Renji and I think it was Renji and Chihiro.
Yeah, Renji and Chihiro. That's the one that it really wants us to focus on.
Yeah.
So a main mechanic here is that this young girl Chihiro, her memory has a span of only 13 hours. And anything outside of 13 hours, if she hasn't written her down in her diary, she's not going to remember it.
Or if she has persistently, like, kept it in her mind, she can, like, basically hold on to, like, one memory, like, carry over one memory a day if she keeps thinking about it.
Precisely. And in that respect, I was reminded of an old Christopher Nolan film, Memento, which is centered on a guy investigating a crime, but he suffers from complete short-term memory loss. Like he can't remember basic things like conversations he just had an hour ago or something like that. And so, really big important things he has tattooed on his body, other things he has to write down or something like that. So, in this way, Chihiro seems to have a similar mechanic to that character. And that was fetching enough, I suppose. I think what really, for personal record, I really did not respond to this series very much at all. I sat through it all, but so many things were just not working for me in a number of ways. I did watch it dubbed because I had to multitask. I'm sorry, I just had to.
Oh, that probably was what have killed it for you. It's like I tried watching it dubbed one time, got through like 20 seconds of the first episode, and I'm like, no, these voices do not match.
Yeah, I can understand that because I've heard better voice acting. Better.
And plus, it's one of those dubs where they actually use Japanese honorifics in English. Ugh. I mean, like, it's easy enough to replace it with. It's easy enough to replace it with English terms like a Mr. or Mrs. or using the last name or saying the first name or coming up with like or shortening like the name in sort of like a nickname fashion. It's easy enough.
Yeah. But aside from that,
yeah,
there were a lot of characters to follow. There were a lot of relationships to follow.
Really? It's like I found I kind of broke it down into basically like 3 parallel stories.
Okay.
Or so, 2 parallel stories with 1 story branching off.
Okay, so aside from Renji and Chihiro, what other storylines are missing?
Hiro and Mia.
Okay, yeah.
And then the one that branches off of that is Kei and that cinematographer dude. Mm-hmm. Although, so I guess since this part of the story starts on Christmas Eve, and it is December, we'll focus on Hiro and Mia's story with Kei as the third wheel.
Okay. You may be able to talk through that a little bit more effectively than I can, because that's that was
to kind of give a more specific synopsis on this. Hiro is a professional manga artist while still in high school.
Yes, yes.
And he struggles between his professional life and his student life, often being truant or sleeping in class, especially when he pulls an all-nighter to make a deadline. He's suffering from carpal tunnel syndrome, probably because his wrist never gets a break between working and school. And Kei, his childhood friend, is constantly trying to get him to like be a good student. Even though in the past it was actually Kei and Chihiro that befriended Hiro at a young age and got him interested in drawing manga because he's like a little art prodigy, and he started like doing manga, and he's like financially independent, so he's already like fully professional, independent. Like really, there's no reason for him to go to school anymore. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it's like if the purpose of school is to prepare you for a job, he's already done that. He's already surpassed it. Anyway.
Right, he has the job.
Mm-hmm. And so Mia is sort of a more chaotic element in his life. I guess you can kind of break it down like that. Like Kei is the order, and yes. Mia is the sort of like the chaos.
Yeah, that's fair.
And in this case, the sort of like order that Kei was trying to enforce on Hiro made him like very indecisive about what he felt like he wanted to do or what he should do. And it's like he was already doing pretty bad at school, and as the story went on, his the quality of his manga started to dip a little bit as well. He realized that he couldn't really do both. Conversely, his relationship with both Kei and Mia, because of course Kei had a crush on Hiro for the longest time, but she never took the chance to like confess or do anything about it. Meanwhile, Mia, like someone who just comes in like a storm out of nowhere, like really out of nowhere. Like at the beginning of the story, she steals his bike to catch a purse thief, never catches him, and then they just start hanging out.
Okay.
And so like Mia just comes in like a storm and tells Hiro just like, and like she's like very like truant herself because she's sort of like neglected by her parents at her house because like her parents hate each other and they just hate each other too much to care about their daughter. So she kind of has this like anxiety over loneliness and boredom. So she just spends time that she should be at school just kind of wandering around the town, just doing things to take her mind off of it, basically.
Okay.
And she sees that like Hiro is already just basically like fully capably like adulting at age 16, and she kind of sees him as sort of like a needed like stability. And then like the most of the conflict with that is between Kei and Mia. Is like Mia is just like, oh, who's this? It's just coming in on my turf, and just like, you never cleaned your turf. And Kei does like some very there were a couple moments. There were like two moments that really made me hate Kei.
Okay.
Like first was when so Kei had a basketball game in which like she injured her knee, and this sort of like mutual friend, cameraman kind of dude calls up Hiro, and he rushes over to make sure that like Kei's all right, and in doing so stands up Mia on a date in which she sort of like annoyingly but still sort of understandably like freaks out, leaves hundreds of messages in one of the most simplistically animated but uncomfortable scenes that I have, like 2.5 minutes like that I've ever experienced. Especially on the first viewing, like the more unstable she gets throughout all that, and it's really a peek into her mind. Like now, normally in the real life, somebody doing this and just like, okay, this broad's crazy, and they would just like drop it. But like seeing the backstory beforehand in that episode and seeing it build up and like knowing what her deal is, it's like, yeah, you get it, and like it's understandable why she would act like this. And it also makes it kind of scary that like the next time they meet, she brushes it off.
Yeah.
And so, what really made me hate Kei in this moment is that, so when Hiro went to go check on Kei, he left his phone at his house. When they both go to his house, she finds that Kei finds that a whole bunch of messages from Mia on his phone and deletes all of them. And then afterwards, when Mia tries to go to Hiro's house, Kei just got out of the shower and told her to leave, like they just I guess I'll say in biblical terms, like they knew each other.
Right. I see what you mean. That was a very awkward composition that they chose for that moment.
That it really made me dislike Kei in those moments, just because of like, it's like she did both of them dirty with that.
Yeah.
It's like, and I guess like with Hiro's sort of like climaxes is like after after that, like it kind of builds up, and it's kind of like a decision between like, it's like, okay, somebody's going to be sad by the end of this. You can't please Kei and Mia at the same time. You're going to end up losing both of them. Yeah. And it took a thorough beating by the cameraman friend to make him realize that. And then he goes and says to Kei, it's just like, it's like, just kind of like lays it out on the table between them, and just like, hey, can we just like go back to being friends? And it's just like, a little bit corny. It's just like, yeah, we can try. It'll be hard, but like, I'm sure we can do it. We've known each other longer than this. It's like our friendship lasted longer than this crush. Mm. And then he goes and like finds Mia, who is just about to skip out of town. And I tell you, like, that last phone call that kept going back and forth between the phone booth, which was shaped like an hourglass, really nice. I dig that. And the timer for how much time that Mia had on this like payphone card.
Yeah,
like,
I remember that.
That was suspenseful.
Yeah, it was. Not gonna argue that.
It's just like, come on, get there. And then like after, it's like, and like they managed to finally like patch things up and like really like truly confess that they love each other. And it's like, and then time is up.
Yeah, I said screw you. Like,
and it's just like, ah. But then he comes in on a bike. He's just like, yeah, I just looked at like every single payphone in town. Mm-hmm. And then everything was good with that. It's like, it definitely like the whole like decisiveness thing. And after that too, like at the end, like even Mia actually decided to like go back to school and be a good student, because like she's not stupid. She's fully capable of making good grades.
Yes.
And Hiro quit school to fully devote himself to making his manga the best he can, and also like hopefully like his wrist gets a break and he actually is able to. Well, he doesn't get a proper sleep schedule still. He's still basically like awake at night.
Okay.
But yeah. And then there's like the whole side story thing with like, there's like even the cameraman guy kind of has his own side story. He's trying to like,
yeah.
He's kind of like trying to figure out what he wants to do, and like at a chance sort of like glance at like Kei on Christmas Eve, he sort of like sees a spark, a glow in her, that he's trying to capture again, because he admired his mom, who was an actress and who like really sort of like glowed in front of the camera.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, I wasn't able to catch much, but aside from those two moments of the two phone calls, with Mia leaving all those messages and the phone call where they finally had this opportunity to come to terms with each other's feelings, yeah, I wasn't able to register too much beyond that, but
it's like with Shaft, especially with these, when they have a lot more creative freedom with the visuals and such, you definitely have to be within a certain mindset. And generally it's a very open and charitable mindset. And you kind of have to like defrag the content as you're receiving it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You have to be like you said, of a particular mindset to be receptive to that.
Yeah. And then,
aside from the rather terrible English voice acting and some of the questionable character design choices that I saw, I can't say that his production.
Kind of like oddly skinny yet, like, yeah. But I think that's more them kind of trying to stay close to the character designs in the light novel. I mean, visual novel.
Okay.
And I've seen some screenshots, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty close. And like, I don't know what it is with like visual novels and like some of the sprites that like it's like, yeah, sure, they're cute and they're appealing, but like these sprites are going to be constantly reused. You think they could like put a little bit more effort into the anatomy?
Yeah, and some of the hairstyles didn't really make any sense, and the way they animated when rotating them really broke a lot of rules. Yeah, I found I was
Yeah, but again, very wet behind the ears. Although
yeah,
they
I
did
guess
manage
so.
to do, although they did manage to do their head tilt.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, they got a few of those.
And and so I remember there was this one part like Renji, I think Renji had some of like the weirdest animation. There are two scenes
Yeah.
where he had like some like really weird animation where he kind of like he like moved a lot when he talked. The first one was just kind of like awkwardly talking with Chihiro. Second was sort of like you see a silhouette of him like having this sort of like internal moral conflict, and it looks like he's like taking blows from these like realizations, and it's really weird. It's like it almost looked like it was rotoscoped, but it was too unstructured to be called rotoscope.
Mm.
The movements were too I guess like janky for it to be called rotoscope.
I guess so. Yeah.
Anyway, on to Chihiro and Renji's story. This one was more well received by you, right?
Yes, that was the better one with the young girl who has this spotty memory
Mm-hmm.
and
That
trying to make something of a relationship out of it. Yeah, I responded better to that.
so that one reminded me of kind of like a combination of Katawa Shoujo and 51st Dates.
Okay, I didn't see either of those.
Oh, you got to play Katawa Shoujo.
I'm sure I do.
It's the first game to like inspire me to get a tattoo.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I can send you the link. It's free. It's a total amateur project.
Okay, that's nice.
And then of course 51st Dates, Adam Sandler movie with
Oh, yeah, okay.
with Drew Barrymore.
All right.
Wasn't that great of a movie, but Samwise Gamgee was in it.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so Renji is kind of a very sort of like wide-eyed, naive kind of person who, at a young age, kind of had like some sort of like fantastical direction in his life, but nothing concrete.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to be like a knight and save a princess and stuff like that, which like okay. And when it came time to like make a career path, because like if you watch like high school anime long enough, you know that like that when you're at a certain year, you fill out a career planning sheet for the teachers, I guess, to like so like kids are focused on something and like or they can get the right classes or whatever. I don't know. And so, well, just sort of like wandering on the tracks, abandoned tracks, he comes across Chihiro sitting there, and they just sort of like awkwardly like introduce each other. And I like how the memory disorder was like slowly revealed, because she kept asking, just like, "Oh, you're Renji, right?" And then he's like, first is like, yeah, and just like, first is kind of like, and then like, like he reveals it to her that like the situation, basically how she came to be this way is that, so back when Chihiro was still living with Kei and hanging out with Hiro. Chihiro and Hiro were actually like working together on making their own like amateur manga at at the age of 12, and they kind of spent more time together than with Kei, even though like Kei and Chihiro are twins, and then Kei drags Chihiro to the beach and leaves a note for Chihiro to catch up with them when she gets back home from something. And then as she is running down the road, she sees Chihiro and Hiro in the distance, and they see her and wave back, and then she gets hit by a car. She also lost her left eye in this accident.
Yeah, that's how that happened. Yeah, because I never call it that. It's like, what's with the eye patch? Is that another fashion statement? Like, no, it's
she lost her eye, and it's like there's one part late in the story. So I remember like in the synopsis, that there are two mysterious adults that guide them. So on the Hiro and Mia side, there's this sort of lady that sort of like pops in and out and just sort of like gives some sort of like cryptic advice or guiding them towards realization. And she just shows up out of nowhere. They talk with her as if she was just kind of like, as if she was always there as part of the conversation. And then the next moment, she's gone. The sequel actually answers that.
Okay.
And then on Renji's side, and you also notice too, the cities are kind of the same. Like they both it's like both sides of the story go to the same church and are basically like at the same school. But you never see these people meet up. The second season also answers that.
Okay.
And so on Renji's side, there's this guy that's like hanging out at the church, like waiting for somebody, and just sort of like hands out advice to people who ask it. and he's also Chihiro's caretaker.
Right.
And early on in Chihiro and Renji's friendship, he's just kind of like, hey, like, are you sure you can really handle being with Chihiro? It's just like, if you're gonna be with her, brace yourself.
Yes. It's gonna be a challenge.
It's like, and that definitely came to a head like at one point in the story where Renji actually sees her like wake up from a night of sleeping, and of course like there's a whole like 4-year gap in her memory, and like when she wakes up, she's 12 years old again.
Right. Yeah, that was.
And she wakes up and just like wait. It's like sees her. It's like she's grown. She looks in the mirror, just like she pulls the eye patch back and freaks out that she lost her eyes. Like every single morning is just a fresh hell. And then she has, and then like he's just like handed like her diary. It's just like, look, this is what you've been doing for the past 4 years. And it's just like, wait, what? It's like, I just woke up in a body that I barely recognize, and you're telling me that everything that happened between like when I went to sleep and when I woke up is here in this, written by who knows who. It's like just in a constant state, like once she finally comes to terms with it and calms down, like every day is just like a state of like, everybody knows me better than I do.
Yeah, that's right. That's scary.
Yeah, it's like the first time watching that scene, like that really got me. But anyway, so Renji is sort of just like naively thinking that he can like try to like fix something or make something happen, and devoid of any sort of like dreams of his own. He's just like, hey, let's work on a novel together. And to Chihiro, this was her last dream. This is like the one thing that she felt that like she could do, because she was already had like very promising writing talent before the accident.
Right.
And so so like Chihiro, with the help of like Renji, kind of like keeping her up to speed and like filling in, like editing out inconsistencies, writes a story about a girl who basically is like the only living person in existence, living on an island and like trying to find things to do, and eventually takes up like painting and tries to paint a person. She paints a person. Like falls in love with the boy that she drew, and it's like there were two at the beginning. There were two possible endings to the story. One is that she goes goes inside the painted world to be with the boy, and in other words, she goes insane. Or the boy comes out of the painting and comes into real life, which is more the fantasy ending. But the ending that she chose, and of course, like she wrote this story like impartial, like parallel to her relationship with Renji. The girl decides to burn everything down. Which is kind of what happens too, like in sort of like the climax of the story. She tears out from her diary all the pages from during her time with Renji and tosses it up into the air.
Okay.
Unless the wind catch it. And this was like after they had like the day they actually had like a date.
Okay.
And so like basically just kind of like threw away like all of like the memories. But then Renji's kind of like I'm not gonna let this happen. Like this, or like it's not really what she wanted. It's just like but she finds not all of the pages, but a handful of the pages that were scattered, and runs back to Chihiro, who, even though she threw away all those memories and even wrote in a diary, don't talk with this person. For like the past like 3 days, she couldn't forget him, just simply couldn't.
Right. I remember that.
And of course, like it all stated, like her fear is that like she doesn't really fear like forgetting. She fears being forgotten. And there was that, and I like how Renji sort of like, in a way, he got to fulfill his naive dream, but at the same time he realized that it's not really like what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like yeah.
That's largely how it ends, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, I guess like generally the whole like the story kind of like centers around like the ideas of the connections between people and the very unlikely miracles that can happen when the connection is strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the caretaker dude, it was just like one of the things he said a couple times is like, there are no miracles, there's just inevitabilities and accidents, and everything in between is things that we decide.
Mm-hmm.
But there was like another character, and there's kind of like, he's like, yeah, I've heard him say that before. He's like, they were childhood friends. They were friends, and those two adults were friends in high school. So like, I've heard him say that before, but what was it that he said? It's like, but I think it's something like maybe like miracles come from the things that we decide to do in between the inevitabilities and the accidents. I guess kind of like a God helps those who help themselves kind of things, which is something that I hold. But yeah.
Yeah, that really does seem to be the long and short of it. And that's a lot to go through in just 12 episodes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so.
And of course there's like a whole bunch of gaps and stuff like that I mentioned earlier. Like like at the very end, the two sort of like, I guess, like sagely guides in the stories like meet up, and you're like, oh wait, they know each other. What's their story? That gets expounded in the second season, which we probably won't go over in this podcast. Definitely not next month. We'll be doing something else next month. But Tyrone, I do recommend that you try to take the time to watch that.
Okay.
It's good. It also has, or kind of like early on, it has another scene, kind of like the phone message scene, but it is way more uncomfortable.
Okay.
Like even the guy like on the receiving end of it is just like stop. It's like and you're like sitting there along with him. He's just like, yes, please stop. I gotta know. But like in a good way. Like it's very well done. And of course, like the end of the story with that one is jeez, it's yeah. There's also like kind of like another story. There's like that's like the prequel side of the story. There's also a sequel story that kind of gets like overshadowed by like the prequel story, because like the prequel story is the one that really has the oomph.
Okay.
The sequel story kind of like that one centers around like two like side characters from the first one, and it's just kind of from that. Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, so if you did enjoy it, there's more to imbibe. Maybe I would have to revisit under different auspices in order to be more receptive to it.
But definitely watch it sub.
Yeah, maybe the next time if I ever revisit it, that will be the time I would do it. But yeah, that's a tale of memories. So to tie off this podcast in light of the spirit of the season, and we want to remember the reason for the season, we're going to do a small Bible study, biblical review of the first Christmas. First time that our stepped to our earth and began his sojourn to reconcile us to the Almighty. So I personally wanted to choose
the incarnation of the paradox of the God.
I'm rather partial to that gospel.
Yes, Luke.
Now, it's kind of funny what exactly.
Breaking up on your end. It's getting about.
No, I'm good. Are you? I'm starting to hear you. Lo-fi. What's up?
It's just my internet's getting bad. It's starting to break up on my. You're coming in like breaking up on my end. It's weird. I'll try to follow along as best I can.
Okay.
And it's getting about that time when my internet just starts getting either throttled or overcrowded.
Strange. Well, as I said, I picked the story of Luke, and the whole setup for this is the impetus for everything that was set up to this magnanimous event always like fills me with wonder in one way or another. If you read scripture long enough, you do eventually realize that God does have a sense of humor, and cruel irony is his favorite type of comedy. He really loves doing that whole J.J. Abrams subverting our expectations thing. And in this particular instance, he's been doing that since the beginning, but in this particular instance, many Jewish peoples, and still even now, were expecting the coming of the Messiah. There's no denying that, but they were not. But they were expecting something a little bit more flashy than what they got with this guy, Jesus. Mary's boy from around the way, because first of all, they were expecting, even if I'm not mistaken, even the wise men who came to him long after he was born. Few people seem to remember this, but the wise men were not there when Jesus was born. They didn't visit him until he was about 2 or 3 years old. But when the wise men heard word that the Messiah has come, they thought that he would be born in a big, powerful city like Jerusalem. But that wasn't the case. He was born in some backwater town called Bethlehem. And with the reason it was in Bethlehem is because his parents, Mary and Joseph, Mary was technically his only biological parent. Joseph was just there assigned to her for care. When that was happening,
or weren't they already courting each other beforehand? They married while she was pregnant.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, yes, they were already married around the time that she had conceived. But with what was going on politically is that the Caesar at this time Israel was under the dominion of Rome, and Caesar had put out an edict that all the people in the Roman Empire need to be registered so they can get the census going. And in order to do that, everybody needs to go to their place of birth to register. And for Mary and Joseph, the place of their birth is Bethlehem. And this is around the time that she was well with child, ready to deliver any day now. So this is when they all went up to get themselves registered. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm reading from Luke chapter 2, verse 4. It says, Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child. So it was that while they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. So a lot of people remember that aspect of the story. Because of the registry, a lot of people have been coming through the town and taking up space in the inns and other lodgings. And so there was a lot of the inns, they just did not have any more room for the would-be visitors. And Mary and Joseph were among them. So instead, they had to go sit out in the barn where all the draft animals were kept. And Mary had to deliver in the place where the animals were kept, and Jesus himself had to be laid in the feeding trough. The manger is a feeding trough, for those who don't know. A manger is a place where they keep food for the animals, and that's where Jesus was kept after he was born. Now, this also needs to be taken into account the timing of these events. It's commonly believed, because we celebrate Christmas in the month of December, there have been, though this is largely understood now, even among some of the most uneducated in the church, that Jesus was not actually born on December 25th. We all understand that now. He was most certainly born sometime in the late spring. Considering the fact that the next part of this story is when the angels went out into the countryside to let the shepherds know that Christ had been born and that the Messiah had come. Now, this was late at night, and the shepherds were out tending to their flocks of sheep. And there's simply no way that they would be tending to their flocks of sheep in late December at night. The Palestinian winters were just far too cold. So again, this also gives evidence of the fact that these events happened sometime in the late spring, most likely. Perhaps around the same time as Easter. Perhaps around the same time as Resurrection Day. It would be quite symbolic that Jesus was
I actually read
resurrected. Go ahead.
I actually read somewhere sometime that astronomers trace back a lunar eclipse to determine the actual day of Jesus's crucifixion, which was November 24th.
Oh, really? November 24th.
Because it said like the sky darkened during his crucifixion, and they hypothesized that it was because of a lunar eclipse. or a solar eclipse. And although, like, when it was brought to, I guess, the Vatican or something like that, they denied it.
You're right. Oh, maybe that requires some investigation on my part. But yeah, so the shepherds were certainly there at the time of Jesus' birth. Or shortly after he was born. The day he was born, that's when they arrived just to welcome the new Messiah. And it is rather peculiar that the angel and God would choose shepherds to be his harbingers, because shepherds were commoners people. They weren't very wealthy, they weren't very well known, they were almost like, fishermen or garbage collectors. Like, people knew of them, but nobody thought much of them. And it really does seem to be this affinity for those who are commonplace is a recurring theme throughout. Yeah,
the shepherds were no joke either.
No.
They had to, like, single-handedly, like fight off, like, predators and stuff while trying to make sure that their flock doesn't, like, run away in panic.
Right, exactly. It takes a lot of diligence and a lot of patience to be a good shepherd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not easy.
I wonder how many of them actually had, like, dogs helping them out.
Yeah,
at that time.
There was, well, actually, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the domestication of dogs still not very much in vogue? Because dogs were considered to be very unclean animals.
I guess maybe.
Now I remember that going on. I'm not too sure. Maybe some investigation into Palestinian-style shepherding is in order.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me think. I want to bring up some of the other surrounding events shortly before Jesus' birth, such as the family having to leave to go to Egypt. There was a time, around this same time, it would have been brought to news to King Herod, who was the king of the particular region of where Jesus was to be born. And he had caught word that there's going to be this new king who threatens his rule. Now, even aside from this, Herod himself was not exactly, one could say, a good actor by any stretch of the imagination. He was a cruel, ruthless, power-hungry, bloodthirsty ruler who, as I recall from my studies, he even ordered that a certain number of people just be randomly and arbitrarily executed on the day of his death, just so there could be a proper spirit of mourning at the time.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like, he didn't even have confidence in his own reputation that people would mourn over him. He needed people to mourn over other people.
Mm-hmm. Just so there could just be a spirit of mourning at the time of his death. That's how petty it was.
That is some small member energy.
Yeah. That's one way to put it. So when he caught wind that there was this new king threatening to take his place, he wasn't going to be too keen on that. And he started sending people out to find any threat of newborn babies being born and having them executed. Much in the same way as the time of Moses' birth. We may remember, the Egyptians were ordering that all the Hebrew baby boys be killed or by throwing them in the river because they were simply growing too numerous. And they feared insurrection. But in this case, in a similar way, on a much smaller and immediate scale, Herod feared insurrection or overthrow of power and did something similar. So what happened is that an angel came to Joseph in a dream and let him know, y'all need to get the heck out of Dodge for a period, and they fled to Egypt. Now, during this time, Egypt was also part of the Roman domain, so legally they weren't leaving the Roman Empire, they was just getting outside of Herod's jurisdiction for that. Mm-hmm.
They're just crossing state lines.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially. They would just exactly. They would just need to get out of Herod's jurisdiction for the sake of their own safety. And they did, and then they came back, and Jesus was born, and great joy and glory was had. Now, I reflect on these stories oftentimes, thinking about what kind of burden it must have been for the humans, particularly people like Mary, to be in such a magnanimous position and yet themselves be so unworthy.
From what I've seen, it was like she was given a choice to do it. In a sense.
Is that an interpretation?
It's like the way I kind of see it is like Gabriel came down and gave her the word. It's like, hey, you've been chosen to give birth to the Messiah. But like and then she accepted it, and I think like by the way that it was worded, it was like it implied that there was a choice, or at any point she could have like denied it or just said no. So that was like something that she kind of like really like took upon herself, and I would expect that the birth was quite something too, especially when her maidenhead was broken during labor, not by like a normal conception.
Consummation. Yeah, you're right. That had to have been odd.
Although I'd imagine that like the pain of that like kind of paled in comparison to the labor itself.
Yes, of course. Especially, and I wouldn't be surprised, considering the religious fervor of the time, if a woman was pregnant without being married, that was bad news for her. You can be rest assured of that.
And if they found that she was pregnant and still a virgin, she probably would have been burned as a witch.
Yeah, probably. Either way, a stoning was due for her from somebody, but the fact that she managed to escape that is nothing short of divine intervention.
And it's a good thing that Joseph was like quick to step in.
Yeah, that too. And I'm sure Joseph had his doubts.
Like kind of like for her protection too. Yeah. That making an honest woman out of her, in a sense, even though she was always honest.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that is
the
story.
I imagine it was just shy of a shotgun wedding.
Yeah, that could be said. Just shy of it. Except it was a reverse shotgun wedding, so a shotgun wedding from the movie Tenet. In a way. That had to have been extremely awkward for everybody. The Lord works in mysterious ways, as they say. Can't get much more.
And I bet like she was still pretty early, and they hit it well.
Yeah, hopefully.
I don't think that she was like 4 or 5 months into it by the time they got married. I think it was just like, oh, morning sickness. Oh, I'm pregnant. Oh, I got a little bit of bump. We need to do something real quick. And then probably had a little extra flowy wedding robes to hide it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, but again, she was at the verge of conception at the time they reached Bethlehem.
Yeah. Man, that is definitely quite something.
The beginning to the greatest story ever told.
And
again, his humble beginnings was just part of that divine humor of irony. That he was just this carpenter's boy.
I think I remember like I forgot like who said this kind of story, but like someone made kind of like a story of like why Jesus came in such like a humble position rather than just like being born into like earthly royalty. The story kind of goes like, so there was a king who fell in love with a farmer girl, and he wanted to ask for her hand in marriage. But he knew that if he made a show of himself, came down in all his kingly robes and his entourage, that when she approached the farm girl, like she'd be so awestruck and kind of scared. Oh, well, not kind of, definitely scared to. She'd be too scared to refuse. And he didn't want that. He wanted it to be a genuine decision. So the king disguised himself as a peasant and courted the farm girl, and it was like only after she accepted his hand in marriage, it was only after she said yes that he revealed himself to be a king. And then like at that point she was fine with it, probably thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like basically Jesus. Like Jesus came as like a humble carpenter, just came as a peasant, as a servant. Like basically, kind of like as a point of relation to the common man. Otherwise, like if he just came as royalty, then like Christianity would be like a religion of the oligarchy.
Exactly. And it's supposed to be. And it's also a lesson to all of us that if, the almighty great I am, Alpha and Omega, can humble himself that much. Like, imagine yourself becoming something like a slug. That's basically God's...
Because you loved slugs so much.
Exactly. He loved slugs so much that he was willing to become one of them and be killed in, like, whatever the most horrible way a slug can be killed is. I don't know.
They poured salt all over him.
Salt bath. There you go. Water bath.
Not even the water, just a straight dip in salt.
Just the salt. That was basically Jesus' experience. And if he can humble himself that much, we had better be willing to humble ourselves in the many ways in which we pride ourselves, which is something that I've been encountering in many critical ways recently.
Yeah. It's from what I find too that like strength only comes from a bedrock of humility.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Because what is it written? The first shall be last, the last shall be first. Those who boast themselves will be put down, and those who humble themselves will be brought forth.
Or Matthew 23:11. But the greatest among you shall be your servants.
Exactly.
Is that people aren't made great by like what they gain.
No.
Is that people are made great by what they give and to whom they give and how much of themselves they give.
Mm-hmm. What they've done for others and for all others around them. That's what makes them great. That's what counts. Even those who have a lot. Someone like Job, for example, who was enormously, obscenely wealthy. His greatness is in what he did for others, not in what he had himself.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the best way that I know of to say a good Merry Christmas, shy of playing the Charlie Brown Christmas special again, because that's a sacred relic to me. That's the best way that I know to say Merry Christmas to our listeners.
Yeah.
So for, I guess, next month, which is also next year, we're going to have plenty to look forward to. The whole next year, we're still involved in this stupid pandemic, and not too much seems to be developing positively in those regards, but we got a couple of movies that'll be coming out, not necessarily Weeb movies, but I'll be writing the review for Soul, Pixar's new movie Soul, that comes out on Christmas. Another thing coming out on Christmas is Wonder Woman 1984.
I think Soul is actually kind of part of a little like triad. Let me see. How was it? Inside Out is about the mind.
Yes.
Coco is about the body, and of course, Soul is about the soul.
The soul. Okay, that's a good way to think about it. It would work better if they all had the same director.
Or if there were like little like cameos within them, or just like something in the background to connect them. But I guess you can kind of treat it like Gurren Lagann is about a man's coming of age, Kill la Kill is about a woman's coming of age, and Darling in the Franxx is about boys and girls coming of age together.
Interesting. I never finished Darling in the
Franxx. That's the Trigger triad.
Okay.
Although of course Gurren Lagann was when Trigger was still with Gainax.
That's true. Maybe we could choose one of those for our next review. Because I never finished Kill la Kill. I never finished Gurren Lagann.
Oh, Gurren Lagann is so good.
I know I got very far in it, but something happened that I had to stop, and I just never got back into it.
Should definitely watch it. You'll
be down for reviewing that.
If you watch it, you might, I don't know if it's true, but like you might see where an inspiration for Samurai Jack season 5.
Oh yeah, I know Samurai Jack took a lot of inspiration from other works, including anime, so that wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, I definitely can see where it might have taken inspiration from Gurren Lagann. Let's see. Maybe not Darling in the Franxx. I think that might still be a bit too fresh. Let's see. Well, I guess after coming off a conversation about our Savior, next month we can talk about the the first savior of anime,
Ooh.
Kill la Kill.
Okay, I could finish that. Yeah, I never finished that one, so I could.
Although if we do, I do want us to have a guest on this podcast, especially one that's a woman.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll see if we can get let's see if we can get Kelly back.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That would be really nice. Yeah, because I know she likes Kill la Kill. Okay, that'll be fun. I can watch Kill la Kill or finish Kill la Kill, and we can definitely discuss that one. I'd be down for that.
I actually think the dub on that one is passable.
That's quite good from my experience.
Have you seen the blooper reel for it?
No, but I will.
Oh my god, you got to see the dub blooper reel. That's actually pretty good. I commend the voice actors for having some fun with it, which I guess also lends to like the quality of the dub itself. Usually I'm a sub snob, but like there are a few dubs that I find to be adequate.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll definitely check that out. So for everyone else that's listening to this, thank you for joining us. We did have one of our viewers did come to visit us. I've been responding to him in the comments. So thank you for coming. Yes, it was quite a humble tale. Christ's birth is truly one of, if not the best stories ever made. It is. So thank you for joining us. Maybe he'll be able to come to us in audio form sometime in the future. He really wants to, but we can arrange for that. But to everyone else, we want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We've gotten through 2020. We should all get I Survived 2020 shirts. I'm definitely going to be looking for those sometime.
Yep.
But aside from that, once again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone. Take care of yourself and stay safe.
Happy Padoru.
Yeah, right.